Welcome back to the Kiwi Wedding Podcast. My name is Lydia and I am a wedding photographer based in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. I'm so grateful to be able to bring you these stories, and it is so nice lately hearing how much they are helping, hearing from real Kiwi couples about their experiences, and we have so much more goodness to come, so make sure you stick around. Today on the podcast we've got the lovely Gabrielle Houghton, or you may know her as Gabby. She is an incredible makeup artist, one of the best in New Zealand, I would say, and she is absolutely killing it with her business, her team, and everything she does. You may have seen her pop up on Instagram and TikTok. I love following along with her content. Gabby is an old friend of mine. We went to the same high school in Hamilton back in the day. She was a few years below me and also grew up in youth group together. And I remember back then, even from when she was like 14, 15, 16, she was doing all the girls' makeup. She did my makeup for one of my school balls, which I do mention in the episode. So it's been lovely to follow her journey over the years and bump into her at weddings sometimes. If you're looking for a makeup artist, I know she's highly in demand, but get in quick because she is incredible. As well as chatting about the makeup side of things, Gabby recently got married and we talk through her own wedding, how she prioritized family and wanted to include everybody on her day. She chose to go quite fashion forward with her beautiful Brooke Tyson dress, and the day was photographed by Ash from Sapphire Studios. You guys love the combo of bride and vendor episodes, and this one is going to be no different. It's packed with so much good advice, so I'm not going to ramble on any longer. We will just get straight into it. Jump over to our Instagram at the Kiwi Wedding Podcast to see some of Gabby's photos and let me know what you think of the episode. Enjoy episode 39 with Gabby. Hi Gabby, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. So excited to chat to you all about your wedding and working in the industry as well.
Thanks so much for having me. You might fill people in anyway, but Lydia used to be my youth group leader and we went to school together, and like one of the first makeup jobs that I did creatively was that one that we did together for Rudisine. I'm not sure if you remember, and the makeup was probably terrible, but we were young, so that was cool. And it's cool to be here now, and I've loved following the podcast. When I was planning my own wedding, it was really helpful. I started planning it probably a year before the podcast started, and so I was having to do like international podcasts for my research, and it's just been so much easier having like New Zealand budget and New Zealand vendors to talk about.
Yay, so good. Yeah, I love we go back quite a way and did some really fun like collabs and styled shoots back in the day when we were kind of like both starting out in the industry. And I think you even did my ball makeup for one of my school balls, and you were probably like 15 or 16, but you were already into it at school. And yeah, so cool to see how far you've come and amazing business you've created. So good. So to get started, if you could just tell me a bit about you and your partner, how you guys met, and yeah, your life together.
I've been a makeup artist for about 10, 11 years and doing it as my full-time job for about 6 or 7. So really been quite in the wedding industry for those 6 or 7 years. I've now got a team and a few other sort of things, like I train up makeup artists and I train up my team artists. So that keeps me really busy. And my partner, Kale, he is a robotics engineer. He kind of contracts to the Ministry of Business and Innovation, which makes him sound really straight and narrow, but he is quite creative too. Like he works for himself. So I think that served us both well in planning for the wedding. We met on a night out, which was quite random because he didn't really ever go out. I think it was like his one time going out, and I was in a phase where I loved going out, so that wasn't random. But we didn't date then. We connected through a mutual friend, and then I think we were like Facebook friends, and then it wasn't until a few years later that we connected. But it was lucky that we didn't date when we first met, because definitely weren't ready. We just both probably weren't looking for each other at the time, and for me at least took a little bit more growth to realize what I was ready, what I was looking for, and then he ended up really being that.
So you dated for a while and then got engaged. Can you tell us a bit about your proposal story?
When we started dating, I did just want to include this because my sister told me to do this, and a few of my other clients and friends that I've talked to done it. before we started dating, I made a list of what I wanted in a partner, and like I was really strict. Like I said, I didn't want him to drink much, didn't want him to smoke, and you kind of put your dream stuff in there, which you think might be aiming too high, but when we met later on down the track, when we actually got to know each other, I realized he was exactly that. So we started dating for a little bit, and then kind of realized pretty quickly that I wanted to be with him long term because he literally ticked all the boxes. Um, I'm quite a like I'm quite someone who goes after what I want. If I want something, I'll ask for it, whether that's in like work or yeah, I try to make things happen, I would say, rather than waiting for them. And that was reflected in the proposal too. I basically said to him, I want us to get married. I want to do it before this time. And if we want to do that, we need to get proposed. We need to get engaged now because I need to start booking my friends out. All my friends work in the wedding industry as well. So they needed like a year to 16 months in advance to know the date so that we could all keep the weekend free. So yeah, I proposed the idea to him. He said yes, and he kind of freaked out internally, which I later found out. But from then on, it was just getting the ring. Our proposal itself was very non-romantic, very non-sentimental, but I think that's us. It was quite planned. We set the date because we were both busy and we had to choose a night of the week that was free. He wanted to palm the ring off to me straight away because he didn't want to hang on to it. He was worried about insurance. He did get it insured, but he just felt like it was too scary to hang on to this ring. So we did that. We took my dog for a walk. She also came on our first date and she ended up coming to the wedding. So that was really cool. And we just went down to a park by my house and he gave me the ring. And then on the walk back, we realised that he'd forgotten to actually ask me to marry him. So he'd said that. I don't know if that's necessary to make it official, but we made it official. And then I showed my parents and my sister, and then I just kept it to myself. We kept it to ourselves for a couple of days, which I really liked. Just no obligation to tell people, and didn't post about it for a bit, which was cool. Then I told my friends on the Monday, and then a little bit later I kind of told everyone. So it was nice kind of having that little few days to ourselves to just enjoy it.
Nice. I love that. Just stay in your little bubble and celebrate by yourselves before sharing with all your friends and family or the public, and which is so exciting as well. Cool to hear about a bit more of like I don't know, both sides kind of going into the proposal and get what you want. I love it.
Yeah. And I don't know, I know all of us are like, I know you're a feminist too, but something about the passiveness of waiting for it to happen just felt like a little bit wrong to me. So I was like, no, I can say this to him.
Love that. And so you'd obviously been working in the industry for a while then, and been exposed to a lot of different types of weddings. Did you have a specific vision and style in mind for what you wanted? And how did that kind of go? First steps of planning, choosing a venue, all of that.
My first kind of plan of attack, or our first plan of attack, was a piece of advice that I'd been given. Basically, when we were planning our proposal, I was doing a lot of driving for work because it was wedding season. So I was driving like 3 to 4 hours a day, and I was just listening to wedding podcasts, which I would recommend, obviously. And something that was mentioned on one of those is choose your 3 non-negotiables. And you can stress about those, you can put more money into those, but everything else, don't sweat it as much, kind of let it go. So we had chosen our 3 non-negotiables. They were our guest list. We wanted to have everyone there. We hadn't been dating super long, so we didn't have one big friend group. We very much had my friends and his friends. And then my family, Christian family, is very big. So I think there was like 65 family members on my side, and then his family as well. So guest list was one of our main values. Then it was photographer. I work obviously as a makeup artist, so if my makeup looked bad in photos, I just told myself I'm going to be out of business. No one's going to want to book me. So photographer was something I was happy to invest in. And then I think it was the food was the last thing, as well as working lots of weddings. I've been to quite a few, and just the worst thing is being hungry at a wedding. So those are our things that we wanted to invest in. Our guest list ended up being 165. So that very quickly decided the venue for us. I did a little bit of research, but just from other family members getting married, I knew that Waikato or Bay of Plenty, there were not many options that you could do over 120 people. And if there were, those came with things like, we will do the flowers for you, we will do the alcohol for you, we will do the food for you. I knew who I wanted to have for food, which was Cream Eatery, and I basically just wanted to have a lot of control over the wedding in terms of, I'd worked with heaps of vendors. I wanted to be able to include them all. I didn't want to have to go with a venue that took away some of those creative decisions for me. So that kind of confirmed that we had to go private for the venue if we wanted it to be local, which I did. I'm a real Waikato girl. So I knew I wanted to keep it here, just easier as well. And we went with my family farm. It's no longer in the family now, but it was the farm that my grandparents had, and we all went there every Sunday after church, or all the holidays. All us cousins grew up there and went there for school holidays. So it was quite sentimental. At the time, I kind of just thought that was a good option because I didn't know where else could have 165 people. But it ended up being so special because I had cousins and their now children come over from overseas, and for them to be able to show their partners and kids where they grew up was very cool. Photographer was a real big one for me. To be honest, it was just about the beauty photos. The other photos I was not fussed on, but I'd worked with Ash from Sapphire Studios before, and she was someone I knew I wanted to have, so I booked her in. And then I'd kind of, probably without knowing, without putting pen to paper, just from my experience in the industry, had people in mind for the other things. And when I planned events for work, there were florists and there were cake makers who I will usually use. So kind of thought, let's continue the relationship. I love their work normally. So I'll be lucky to have them at the wedding. Yeah.
So helpful having all those connections, and then being able to use your farm as well. That's so special to have that personal connection there. Yeah, you've probably covered the next question about the most important elements of the day for you. Was there anything else you wanted to say in there?
Yeah, a rule with those top priorities was don't sweat and don't stress it, the other stuff. And also budget-wise, we allowed ourselves to go more on those, but other things, if we wanted to add more money to the other areas, such as my dress or his suit, then we decided that that wouldn't be included in the wedding budget. But if I wanted to spend more on my dress, that would be from my personal money. It was really good giving myself that rule of, you can't stress about these things. You've picked your things to stress about. I think it helped me a lot. Other things like the beauty was obviously really important to me, but that came naturally. And the outfits was really important to me, but probably was just more of a little fun thing for me to do the outfits rather than something I really had to plan.
Nice, that's great advice. I really recommend people just choosing those top most important things, investing a bit more in them, and then you can find other creative ways to not spend as much on other things so it doesn't blow the budget. Can you tell me a bit about your wedding outfits? How was that process? Finding your dress, getting it made, all of
I would love to. My dress was a stress point for me. I think as an anxious girly, which I think we all are in this day and age, I feel like there had to be one point, and it was nothing to do with the dress. My anxiety just decided to manifest in the dress. And up until the wedding, in the few weeks before, I was thinking, oh, do I get a third dress? I'm not sure if I love my first dress. I'll just have another one for cocktail hour. I didn't. I struggled because you're only this young once, and there's an element of getting in your best shape for the wedding, wanting to show off your figure. But then I wanted to be fashion forward, which often doesn't coincide with showing off your figure. Then the other thing was all my family was going to be there, so I wanted a little bit of modesty. So trying to basically I wanted to feel hot. I wanted to be fashionable, and I didn't want to show too much skin. I wanted to be modest. That was a really hard combo for me to get into one dress. But Brooke from Brooke Tyson Ritual was amazing. I'd done a few weddings beforehand, and her dresses just had that uniqueness to them. It wasn't just about being hot, because I don't know, that can be a bit boring. I think there's got to be a little bit of something of interest or a little bit unexpected. So she was amazing. She witnessed all my anxious moments and talked me down from the ledge. She actually gave me the really good piece of advice, because she knew I had a reception dress, and I mentioned that I was toying with the idea of a third dress, but she told me, you actually don't have that many hours in the day or in the dress to wear three dresses, which was so true, and I'm glad I didn't, because looking back, I would have been leaving my wedding to go get changed, and yeah, there's just actually wasn't that time to do that. And funnily, it was like the thing I went backwards and forwards on the most, but the thing that I got the most compliments on, so it's worth it in the end. The bridesmaids' dresses, I knew I loved the patterned look just from seeing those in magazines and things like that. And if you're planning a wedding like a year in advance, you are gonna be planning it through a Black Friday. So I think that's a great time to get bridesmaids' dresses, which is what I did. I waited for that. And then Kale's suit, we wanted something a little bit unique for him. So he did the velvet suit with a waistcoat and a silk neck scarf. He had a really funny shopping experience. He had just been, I hope he'll be okay with me saying this, he'd just been diagnosed with ADHD but hadn't gotten medicated yet. And he genuinely had like a hyper moment while buying the suit and like blew his suit under it, which was quite funny. But he looked great, so it was worth it. But now he's like, oh, you shouldn't have let me spend that much on the suit. But hey.
Oh, so good. Yeah, you guys looked beautiful on the day. So yeah, we'll definitely share some photos. And yeah, I love that you just went like fashion forward, a little bit different, like yeah, stuck to what you want, but really unique look, and yeah, came together so well. And yeah, can you talk a bit about who was in your bridal party, and was that an easy process choosing them?
Yeah. Again, going back to the podcast research I'd done and talking to my brides, one thing, you might agree with me on this, one thing that most brides said that looking back they'd changed, they all said that they wouldn't do bridesmaids. And so many of my brides, or sorry, so many of my clients who'd previously gotten married told me, oh, I'm not really friends with my bridesmaids anymore, like 10 years later. So that was kind of top of my mind. And I just thought I'll go with my oldest friends. And I think something about your oldest friends makes you feel like quite authentic, because they've known you for so long. So I had my sister, she was an obvious choice. Had Rachel, and then I had my friends Harriet and Ebony, who I'd known since primary and high school, and both of them were friends I just felt really myself like, and I felt like they knew me like my true self. I do love something I've realized that I love from working weddings is when there's a lot of people getting ready together. I have done weddings where there's like 2 or 3 bridesmaids and everyone's quiet and on their phones, and it's really not a vibe. So while I didn't want to have 5+ bridesmaids, I wanted to have a really fun like girl group that morning. So I ended up getting a few of my other really dear friends who I probably see more of now rather than my older friends. They all got ready together and we did our hair and makeup together. So that was a cool way of just like including people who weren't bridesmaids, and also it just made the morning so fun. It's like a massive sleepover, and sharing that with more people was really special.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice. I've heard a few brides say that recently of yeah, wanting to have like a smaller bridal party, but then include your larger group of friends in a different way. And yeah, it's such a fun part of the day, that getting ready in the morning. So it's cool to be able to include them in that. And you touched on the guest list a bit already, but yeah, how did you find that process? Was it difficult narrowing it down?
We didn't really narrow it down at all. Like, yeah, we didn't really make any cuts. Probably the only restriction we had was like plus ones. We wanted them to be someone that both of us had met at least, let alone had a relationship with. That wasn't so much a factor. So we were really, really lucky that that was something we were able to keep really large. Food and alcohol were our biggest bills. They made up about like probably 30% of our total bill, 20 to 30% of our total budget, which was something we certainly could have spent less on hadn't it been so large. But family is so important to me, and Kale's quite a social guy, so those were kind of non-negotiables for us. I definitely noticed things like it was harder to have special little touches in some elements, like glasses and plates. I went really simple on, because if you're doing that for like 60, 80 people, to go to 165, it's kind of doubling it. So it just was something that I had to make a call on. Otherwise, I could have just gotten really carried away. So yeah, maybe there were certain sacrifices with that for sure, but I'm really pleased that we did have everyone there. Like, yeah, family is really important to me, and I think especially with having like I know everyone's had grandmas or granddads die. But when we had those pass away, and one of my young cousins a few years back, I think, just made me realize that even more, that families, who's going to be there in 30 years when me and Kale are hopefully still married, whereas like your life changes. So maybe we won't have all the same friends that we were friends with at the wedding. But that was super. That was just one of my values. Like, I guess picking your non-negotiables is sort of like, what are your values? Not just what do you want at your wedding, but what are your values? And family is like one of my most favorite things. I'm obsessed with my family, and I was really lucky to be able to have them all there.
Yeah, so good. So nice to be able to include everyone. And yeah, definitely something to think about. Those, yeah, photos of grandparents and family all together become that much more special in like decades later. So yeah.
It's so bad though, because when I was taking photos with my parents, I don't know if this is something you'd want to keep in, but I'm basically thinking, I said to Mum, I was like, when you die, this is like the photo that we're going to be looking at. Mum doesn't get professional photos done, so that will probably be the most recent one. Yeah, they do end up meaning so much, eh?
That is so special. I've definitely had clients before that have sort of come back and been like, oh, I'm so thankful you got all these photos of my grandma, she just passed. Or yeah, it's kind of morbid, you don't want to think about that, but like, yeah, grandparents and even like babies and stuff that change so quickly, it's yeah, really special to have them.
And special too, because maybe say like 20s, 30s, when people are getting married, you do start to have more of your family gatherings be a bit morbid. So it's really lovely to get everyone together for a positive occasion before all the more morbid ones come.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, yeah, people say that as well. Like having all those people together in the same room, it's often only your wedding and your funeral. So cool to just include everyone, definitely. And can you tell us a bit about the big day, how it all went, and any highlights or favorite moments?
Yeah, it was so amazing. I didn't expect to have so much fun. I'm quite introverted, so I thought I'd be exhausted and ready to go home at 9 o'clock, but I wasn't. Just like start to finish was really beautiful. We tried to extend it a bit. We did a pre-wedding rehearsal dinner the night before, which was just for family and close friends, and then we did a day after brunch afterwards, which were two really special memories. Yeah, just making a few days out of it rather than just one moment, which is maybe easier to forget, was lovely. I did become aware though that doing that is a lot for your guests. Like if you've got introverted guests or your bridesmaids, they definitely can feel an obligation to go to both things. So that was something I learned, just like to the bride. I guess it's really fun to have those things, but showing up is, yeah, I'm really appreciative to them that they showed up for all of those things, like made it a 3-dayer. And just the night before at the Airbnb, having a sleepover with the gals, that was so lovely. And we had such amazing food. That was, again, a really nice highlight. And getting to, I don't know, like the privilege of getting to essentially like feed our guests and like give them that nice food was so great. We had so much feedback on the food, which made me really happy because that's so important. That's what you remember. And our ceremony was a real highlight for both of us. We wrote our own vows, which was really lovely and exciting to hear his. And my uncle was our celebrant. He kept accidentally giving us a ship name. He was saying Gabrielle and Kale, but he kept saying Gabrielle and Gale. And it just like made us and everyone watching laugh the whole time. So there were no tears. It was just the giggles, which was so lovely. I'm happy to have had the giggles at my ceremony. We got sound bowls. I had, instead of walking down the aisle to a song, I walked down the aisle to some sound bowls, which was a real highlight for me. It was so beautiful. It was really grounding, made me really present in what would have otherwise been quite nerve-wracking. And it was cool being able to maybe introduce, I'm thinking of my older family to that, who would probably never find themselves listening to sound bowls. That was beautiful. It was very ethereal sort of vibes. And yet good drinks. I loved that we were able to put on what to me was a really exciting offering at the bar. We had 3 cocktails. We had the bride's cocktail, which was an Aperol Spritz, so that was really orange to pull from the orange in our bridesmaids' dresses. Kale's cocktail was a Cosmopolitan. He loves that, so that was fun. And then we had a gin and tonic, and then also just like beer and wine and some pals and things like that. But having a cranking bar with amazing bar staff from Mr. Pickles, they helped us with the alcohol. that was cool. They were just so awesome. The two guys, Theo and Hugo, I think it was. There was always a line at the bar, which I took as a good thing. It meant people were enjoying it. This was a really fun day. Wasn't expecting to have so much fun. And talking about it after with people who were there was really cool too. Like things that you miss as the bride and groom, you don't notice at all. Hearing about like, I don't know, the two sides of the friends and family connecting was really funny, really cool.
So special. Sounds like such an amazing day, and yeah, it looked incredible. Did you find anything really hard, or what was the hardest thing about the planning process? And yeah, is there anything you look back on and regret or would do a bit differently?
I've realised since talking to friends that get engaged and myself that there's a really hard conversation you have with your partner about budget, which is like not fun, not sexy, but I think usually in me and my friend's situation, it's like getting the partner on board with how much we actually want to spend and getting them realizing how much a wedding actually costs. And that's hard. I think that just is stressful unless which does happen. Some people have no budget and they might have family that are supporting them in that way. I think for pretty much everyone else, that's going to be a not fun conversation. And just like making sure that our world didn't get too wedding centric in the planning stage. Just trying to have dinners where we didn't talk about the wedding because it did get a bit too wedding at one point. There are like a few things I would do differently. A couple of things I forgot. We bought these alcoholic ice blocks, which I forgot to get a person to replenish them because it was like essentially a DIY wedding being on the farm. So we have like 200 alcoholic ice blocks in the freezer, which is just a sunk cost. I'm not going to eat those. And then I know like I had to draw the line on budget, but I do wonder about if I should have got some really nice glasses to sort of honor the nice cocktails that we did. I just think that would have been beautiful. And another thing that could have been done better was on the wedding day, we booked an Airbnb to get ready, just somewhere more spacious, more beautiful than my house. And the checkout was at 2, so we thought, sweet, we'll pack up, we'll go to the wedding, and that will be fine. But I didn't book an extra night because no one was needing to sleep there that night, but it meant having to pack everything up and go to the wedding. So hair and makeup had to pack all their stuff up and come to the wedding, like pack all your tripods, pack all your phone stands, makeup product, food. We'd got some food in the morning, had to get all rid of that. And then just that last little crunch, you know what it's like. It's already quite hectic. So having to check out too was just not the best planning. But at the time, it was probably a couple of weeks out from the wedding. And I thought if I can save $600, I think it would have been for the extra night I did. But yeah, maybe just would have been a bit calmer had I paid that extra money. Yeah, and just talking to the girls who were there on the morning, my sister last night, Rachel said, yeah, that was a bit hectic.
Yeah, that's something easy to forget, and I think that sort of last like half an hour before you have to walk out the door is always a bit hectic and stressful. So if you can avoid that, it's just an extra expense, but totally understandable. And if you're happy to talk about budget, which I think you are, if we can go into that, how much did you end up spending, even a ballpark figure? And yeah, how did you go with planning it? Did you go over budget? And yeah, talk us through that kind of process.
Yes, so happy to talk about this. I talked to my parents the other night because they gave us a bit, and I asked them, are you okay for me to talk about this openly? So I've got the approval from the rents. Some people include rings and honeymoon in the budget. I'm not going to include that because I don't think that's part of it. So I worked out, I guess budget was a unique one for me because I work in the industry and have done for some years. So basically imagine employing a lot of your friends or colleagues to do a job for you or to provide services for you. If they're quite good friends of yours and they're colleagues, it's very likely that they're going to be very generous and discount you, which happened to me. I was very thankful for. I'm very lucky for that. So I had some prices that were different because I worked in the industry as a vendor. Some vendors I did social media collaborations with, which were gifted. And then some of them were just literally my best friends who happened to work in the industry. So that was another really unique pricing thing. But if I hadn't worked in the industry or done any social media collaborations, it would have been about 73,000 for us, which what we ended up paying was quite different to that. in reality, we didn't pay that much. Yeah, the bestie discounts sort of thing. And then social media collaborations, I was really happy to do some of those because whether or not I did them, my wedding day was going to feel like an element of work because I was going to have to show up on all my work platforms about the wedding, which I'm so fine with. But there was already like a standard that I felt like I had to uphold with like content and things like that. So I was more than happy to do that. And the companies that I did social media collaborations with were companies that I had employed and like paid for their services for work events previously. So it just was really organic and really natural, and I think really beneficial to both parties. And then, yeah, we were really lucky, just acknowledging my privilege. We both have parents who were in a position to help and who were able to and wanted to. Um, so each set of parents kind of gave, give or take, around 10,000, which I am really happy to share because when people say help from family, that can vary a lot. And yeah, like you would know, Lydia, sometimes help from family, that can mean congrats on getting engaged. We want to pay for everything. There's no budget. And to be honest, like most of the weddings that you see in Together Journal are kind of that sort of nature. And I would say most of the weddings that you see in Together Journal, just speculating, like, well, as an example, Together Journal, all the ones that go really viral online, they're at least 80, but probably 100K plus. So I think like having that knowledge when you start comparing yourself is really helpful, and it might take away a bit of the sort of, oh, why can't I do this for that price feeling that you can get. I've talked a little bit about it before with clients and on my stories. I was lucky I had this season where like 5 of my brides were accountants. So they were happy to talk about this, the budget thing, and they brought it up. I wouldn't just bring that up with clients without them bringing it up first. But to do a wedding, which is like a standard wedding, as in nothing super unique about it, you're looking at about 45K at least. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's probably the average in New Zealand. I think it varies like depending on where you get married. Obviously, there's yeah, every wedding is different, but yeah, if we had to pick kind of an average cost, then yeah,
Yeah.
that feels about right.
Yeah, and to get it lower, so doable, but then it becomes things a little bit more unique, like not a sit down dinner, or it might be paying for your own alcohol and things like that. Having the knowledge of how much weddings cost, I think just like takes the veil off, and it helps you to maybe plan a bit more within your means. Yeah, I think just realizing that weddings, a lot of the weddings that go really viral are like multi six figures. So if you're looking at it thinking like, why can't I make my wedding look like this? That might be why. Like I had an anonymous question, how do you afford it? If, even a cheap wedding's 50K. Just like really, you can't do it all too. If you want like young couples, what are some of the things they want to do? Buy a house, have a kid, have a wedding. Really can't do them all even consecutively. You need to have some spacing out between them. And just realizing that I think, yeah, some people do decide to do one of those things before or after, and that it is quite uncommon that people can kind of do them all at the same time. And then, like what we talked about at the start, kind of finding your values for when you plan your wedding. Like, find your values for if you even do want to have a wedding. Like, if your value is travel and just your couple of close friends and you're not too fussed on family, which some people aren't, which is so fine, then maybe like an elopement does suit you. But if you are really big on family, and like I know some people who've got like sick family members, that's all they want is their family there, then they're probably someone who will want to have that more traditional wedding. And when it's like what feels right for you and your values and in your heart, I think it does just sit a lot better. I have no regrets in having a big wedding. I don't know about Kale, he probably still would have been happy to elope, but it's fine. He's quite agreeable.
So good. So important to chat about that stuff. And I think it doesn't get talked about, the whole money piece in New Zealand, a lot. And yeah, so many people get engaged and they kind of go in blind about how much a wedding actually costs. And yeah, we're lucky enough to work in the industry and have more of an idea. But just all those weddings that you kind of see online that are aesthetically amazing, or that you are looking at that big budget, and just to be realistic with that. And it is so hard to not slip into that comparison thing with social media, and if you can't afford that, then yeah, you're really going to have to think about those priorities. And obviously one of the biggest ones is guest list. So maybe you
Mm.
elope or have something a lot smaller to be able to do everything you want. It's often mum and dad, family members helping. So keep that in mind. And if you don't have access to that, then yeah, don't feel bad about it. It's so
Yeah.
normal, and you might be seeing so much of that online, but most weddings that actually happen are not like that, probably. So
Mm. And if I was like a mum or dad who was in a position to be able to be like, yep, I'll cover it all, like, good for them and good for the bride. Like, go hard, bestie. Yeah, I think especially a lot of like the European weddings that have gone viral and Aussie
mm,
weddings, like being a vendor and looking at those, I'd say like easily like 200-300K. Hey, like,
mm,
and because we're exposed to everything, it's so easy to research internationally now. You see all these little touches from little weddings that you want to have, but maybe each little touch from each wedding was like their splurge. And I found that being in the industry, some people asked me, did it make it easier or harder to plan? It was kind of both, because yes, I'd seen all these amazing things that I wanted to do, but I couldn't incorporate each favorite thing from every wedding I'd done. It would just totally blow the budget. So kind of helped me know what was out there, but I still had to really rein it in from there and figure out what was important to us.
yeah, so true. It is super hard with everything that you see, and we do have like sort of that high end, a few of those luxury kind of 6 figure plus weddings in New Zealand, but overseas there's just another level of that, even in Australia, and then yeah, America, Europe,
Mm,
and everything. Be aware that that is not necessarily normal, and like some people, that's a house deposit, and that might
mm,
be more valuable to if that's something you want to do to get ahead in life that way. So yeah,
yeah.
definitely thinking about the bigger picture of what you guys want as a couple, whatever that is, and prioritizing that.
And just what you said on it not being normal, something I was thinking about when I was reading through the questions earlier is it's not normal. It's probably like 1% of weddings in New Zealand, or 10% are the whole no budget, do what you want. But
Mm.
in terms of what we see online and what we see in media, those are like what is 80%, 90% of what we see. So yeah, just that like realization that it's maybe not a reflection on what's actually going on.
Yeah, so important. Such great advice there. And did you guys go on honeymoon straight away, or what did planning that look like?
We did. So we got married on the Saturday, and I booked our flights for Monday. I thought we'll have a day to chill, but our flights were 1 a.m. on Monday, so we basically went on Sunday night, which was a bit crazy. There was virtually no planning. That's something I would have done differently, as gone to a travel agent, but we just didn't get there with the planning. But we both had a lot of fun. We went to Bali and Singapore. Kale really liked Bali. I really liked Singapore. Singapore was amazing. We had to go through there anyway, just no direct flights to Bali at the time of year. And I'm so glad we did, that we were in a position to be able to, like, both being self-employed, it just freed up. If we wanted to work a bit more, there was more likelihood of something like that happening. And someone had told me a statistic that if you go on a honeymoon, even if it's like a mini moon, you're like more than half or more than double as likely to stay together in your marriage. So whatever like it looked like, we were going to do some sort of honeymoon. Yeah.
So nice, such cool spots to go to as well, and have yeah a few different things going on. But I love that little fact. I don't think I've heard that before. So good.
Hmm.
And were there any? I feel like you already had pretty much all the contacts and vendors you knew, but yeah, were there any like helpful websites or different resources that you used during the planning process?
I used an app called Wedsly, Wedsly, which was great because it sort of gave me reminders like 12 months out, 9 months out, of what I should be doing. And it had already kind of filled in your reminders and tasks that you need when planning a wedding, but you could add your own ones in. That was really helpful. And then also I used Zola for our invites. We just did them digitally. But Zola, we did like our seating charts on buses, blah, 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 that sort of thing. So that was super helpful. And then just sheets as well. Excel was great.
I don't think, yeah, we've heard those other ones come up. So, yeah, that's super helpful to hear. And, yeah, is there any advice that you would give from a bride's perspective to couples that are planning their wedding at the moment?
Just try, like, the planning is an inevitable part of it, and it's inevitable that it's going to get stressful. So just try and plan things that aren't wedding centric, like plan a couple of dates or walks or dinners where wedding chat's off the table, And this is something that came to mind, which is kind of, funny, but you're going to get stressed. So use it as an exercise to realize like how you manage stress and what triggers you, what part of it triggers you. Is it the finance chats, or is it that maybe the bride's doing more planning than the groom? Yeah, and I guess just I tried to have a mindset of like gratefulness while I was planning, because we were so lucky to be able to get married. I think just it's a really hard time to be a young couple or anyone. Probably even harder to be a young single. It's definitely a couple's world we live in financially. But yeah, just trying to enjoy it, even though it can be a bit of just like extra work at times.
Yeah, that's great advice. So good to just be intentional with your relationship and that whole process, your mental health throughout it, because yeah, it can be such a
Mm,
like intense, hectic time. So
yeah.
yeah, like making sure that you're set up well for that, and yeah, knowing your triggers and things. That's such great advice. I love it. And what is married life like now? Do you feel like you got any of the post-wedding blues?
Such an interesting topic, the post wedding blues. Me and Kale were very happy to be over with that project and that stage of our life. And I've been really thinking about why people get them and why we didn't. But I just have a routine that I love. And I think I'm really grateful for that. I'm grateful that I am happy to go back to normalcy. And I'm happy to have more time for another project. I think with my work, I'm lucky I get to be creative and plan things. So I'm like ready for the next thing. But married life is good. We didn't live together beforehand, so that's something that's probably quite different. So maybe that's probably the next challenge. That's the next challenge I now have more time for, is living together and like figuring out all the cleaning responsibilities and stuff. He moved into my house, and I think I kind of stitched myself up on that, because I was sort of running the household beforehand, like doing the recycling and just making sure all the cleaning products are in stock. And I kind of hadn't like written all those things out that I was doing to manage the house. So I had a little bit of a like gentle clash about that a couple of weeks in, and then I realized, oh, I haven't communicated with him about when rubbish day is and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe that's my next project, us getting used to living together.
Oh, so good. I love that gentle clash. Such a good way to describe it. But yeah, just gonna be like finding your feet and delegating a little bit there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Amazing. Is there anything else you want to add about your own wedding or yeah, being a bride? Otherwise, we'll go on to chatting a bit about the makeup artist side of things.
I think like engagement period wise, we had a year, and okay, there's such a clash because you want more time to save, but a year was almost too long. I think 9 months is great, because planning it for a year, you almost like risk double planning it in a way, which you would know about with like COVID brides and stuff. Um, but yeah, don't plan too much of it at the start, or if you're buying something at the start, be really set on it, because you go through a whole like trend season in terms of like bridesmaid dresses and wedding dresses and stuff. So I think that's quite interesting. Yeah, try not to have too long of an engagement, or if you do, only start actively planning the wedding for like a year less. Otherwise, you'll be doing double the work.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And you do see it happen. You can totally book in your sort of big vendors initially. But yeah, if you get too much into the detail too early, and then you can start sort of doubting your decisions like a year out or whatever. So yeah, great advice. Just leave it a little bit. Then you kind of really stick to your guns with what you like at the time. Cool. So you've been a makeup artist for a long time now, and yeah, kind of touched on that a bit, but can you just tell me a bit about how you got into it and yeah, sort of the journey that's led you to where you are today?
I got into makeup first of all, just general makeup, and I thought I loved doing the creative makeup that was a bit more out there and like the special occasion glams. But turns out like if you're into that enough, there are people who are wanting to get married who want makeup done. So I sort of like not even consciously flowed into wedding makeup, and then just decided it was something that I wanted to get really, really good at. And being a bride has helped me so much. We have such an opportunity as vendors to really calm down our clients and brides, and it's something that our clients have never done before. So just really giving them a lot of information and support and being proactive, I think helps me as a vendor with my brides. But yeah, I've been doing like full wedding seasons for like 6 years, and before that just kind of dabbling as I was doing it part-time, but yeah, doing it full-time for that 6 or 7 years now.
So good. So what is the process like if someone wants to book you for their wedding day? What does that kind of lead up look like? And also if you can go into if you recommend brides have a makeup trial as well.
I think for makeup and hair, there's a little bit of variation, but 12 to 18 months is generally kind of when people start opening their books. I don't know many people who open them 2 years out. So reaching out, most vendors will have an inquiry form on their website. If you fill out my inquiry form with a few details, I will send you my proposal with all my packages. So you can basically add on, as if you were online shopping, how many bridesmaids, brides, etc., your travel, and then see all the prices for that before confirming or having a chat to your bridal party and whatnot. As far as makeup trials, I'm the odd one out here, but I'm aware of that, and I think it's really up to you. I do a lot of international brides, and often we can't do a trial, and that works so fine. I think in lieu of that, having a Zoom call or like a coffee or something is great, because for me as the artist, at least, the trial is just as much like get to know them and get to know their vibe so that I can match the makeup to them. I feel like there's sort of three places you can sit with makeup, and that you're super into makeup, you're kind of into makeup, you wear it sometimes, not super fussed about products, things like that, or you're never wearing makeup. I think if you're either that, never wearing it, or wearing it a lot, it's really important to have a trial, because you're either going to be like super particular, or you just aren't used to what you look like with it. So you need to hash that out either way. If you sit someone in the middle, I think if anyone's not going to have a trial, it's that person who's like, yep, I'm fine with makeup, but I'm not like, I put this primer here and this contour here kind of thing. But just getting your makeup done a few times, whether it's by your bridal makeup artist or not, like if you're in a different city, I don't think it matters. Getting it done a few times so you can visualize yourself in a few looks is a really good piece of advice. So get your makeup or get your hair done for your engagement party hens, because like most of us haven't had a Hollywood wave done in our everyday life, or most of us haven't had like a full coverage bridal glam before. So just knowing how you look in those things before you commit to them on the day. And it also kind of saves you from like having to do, oh, I didn't like that look on me, let's do another trial, which are all for no reason. Use those occasions and just try some different looks so you can see how you feel in them yourself.
Yeah, that's such great advice. And yeah, I love the three different types of brides and thinking about where you sit. That's great advice, and just knowing what sort of thing you want and using if you do get a trial, whoever it's with, for those events in the lead up as well, or even engagement shoots and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
It's a great option if you want to do that.
Right, so you can see how it photographs too, because that's another thing. Hey, depending on how your photographer edits, you might change your idea. Not so much now, but you'll know more about this than me. That kind of really moody editing style that was quite popular like 5 or so years ago. That was also the time when heavy makeup was really popular. They just didn't look good together. Yeah, it was not good. It was too much. The like editing of the shadows just made the contour look so heavy.
Yeah, I remember that era for sure.
Oh, very boho.
Engagement shoots aren't for everyone, but it's kind of same sort of thing. If you want to like see how your photographer works and get used to being photographed and stuff, it's a cool thing to do. So if you can add the makeup in as well, then why not? But yeah, not always necessary. And obviously you would have like looked at all their work and you know they're gonna do a great job with lots of different faces and they know what they're doing, so you don't necessarily have to have a trial as well. And can we talk a bit about the pre-wedding makeup prep? I'm sure you get asked about this a lot, and I know you share a lot on social media, which is super helpful. But yeah, what do you recommend for brides in the lead up to their wedding day to ensure their skin's at their best and they're all blank slate ready for their makeup? Yeah, there's so many different areas we can go into, so whatever you want to share.
Yes, love this question. I think really investing in your skincare is going to pay off, especially if you're wanting to be more of a natural bride. I mean, for anyone, but if you're wanting to have as little on your face as possible, doing all the back end work and like your skincare, the facials, the treatments is a worthwhile investment. And same with things like getting your brows done. If you don't like too much makeup on your face, getting your brows shaped and tinted means we might only have to put the tiniest little bit of product in. So all little hacks to put less makeup on your face, and like a brow tint's going to last so much longer than like a makeup brow kind of thing, for example, too. It will last through to your honeymoon. Really focusing on hydration is like my main piece of advice from a few months out. Whether you're oily or dry, the more hydrated you are, the better your makeup's going to last. And I think of that as like internally and externally, like getting your water up and really hydrating yourself with lots of omegas and fatty acids and things like that is going to do your skin a favor before the wedding. If you're getting married after Christmas, really, really do not get tan lines. Get a strapless bikini top or something like that. Probably just try not to get sunburnt at all.
Great advice there for sure. And have you noticed any trends lately with wedding makeup or from the season that's kind of just wrapping up now, or what you think we'll be seeing more of?
Yeah, so I feel like it's gonna, well, we always follow sort of international, but going with what we're seeing more internationally and what a few of my more fashion forward brides have been asking for is it's kind of a little bit more coverage and a little bit more glam, but because there's less on the eyes, it actually looks like less. So it's kind of exactly what that client who says they want it natural, but they pull out like a full glam pic asks for. It's full coverage, it's perfected, but the colors are really natural. And the eyes, it's less of that round, doe-eyed look to me, and it's more simple eyes, keeping the, just to get really specific, keeping the dark down low rather than a darker outer V. Perfected skin, and keeping with like the pinky lips rather than more of the warm nudes, which maybe 5 or 6 years ago were more popular. Definitely more of like a pinky lip, and like a satin as well. Kind of more glam, but it's not as in your face as that might sound. Like it's not 2016 glam. It's like a refined sort of angelic glam.
Love that. So good. And what can people expect to be investing in a makeup artist? I know this kind of varies for depending who you hire and then where you're getting married, what you sort of want. But can you speak a bit about that, or like what a good makeup artist should be charging?
Yeah, totally. And just what you said, I think Auckland, you're going to pay a lot more, and Christchurch, places like that. But as you get kind of less in the city, it's going to go down a little bit. Everyone will have their different sort of minimum order requirements. Some newer makeup artists will be happy to do just a couple of people, but for kind of an established makeup artist, I think it's from that $1,000 up. My packages are around $1,000 to $2,000, the ones that I most commonly book, and then like any travel and stuff as well. But just when you're searching for a makeup artist too, makeup artists are really happy to travel. Same with all vendors. And some vendors, like photographers, I know a lot of them even include the travel in there. So I don't think let the travel deter you from booking someone. It's in reality, it's going to be like a 15% of your makeup bill at most. So if you've got someone that you're really set on, don't be deterred by potential travel costs. Just find out what that might be.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think I'd always rather book someone that I love their work or have worked with before, that's going to be good, and get them to travel than, I don't know, risking it with someone in a local
Yeah,
small town that might not
yeah.
necessarily have as much experience or be as good. So, yeah, definitely don't let that hold you back. What should people be looking for when they're trying to find a makeup artist? Do you have any tips around that?
Look at their website and look at their social media and see if their work reflects the vision that you have. I think followers online can be like a really alluring sort of social proof, but probably book someone a bit more personalized to your style rather than the person who's got the most followers. Otherwise, it's potentially just frustrating for both of you, especially as a client. You by that point, say you've already done a trial, you might feel like you've already invested the money in it, which would be frustrating from a client perspective. So kind of, yeah, look at someone whose work reflects what you're after, and look at kind of the pictures of, oh, I've got brown hair, brown eyes, kind of comparing yourself to how they do people with brown hair, brown eyes sort of thing. I think that's really helpful too.
That's great advice. Amazing. And yeah, do you have any other advice from a makeup artist perspective for engaged people? And I know we've got a few questions that came in over Instagram as well, so we can then touch on those as well.
This is such a big one. I was actually talking to my makeup girls about this. Make sure you've got a speaker on the wedding morning, and make sure you've got a good playlist. Like, there is nothing worse than someone getting their makeup done with a makeup artist I've never met before and it being like 6 hours long in silence. So get your vibes up, get the speaker and get the music. Have you done any weddings like that where it's just like quiet?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just like a bit awkward or yeah, I don't know, some people are like really nervous in the morning, so it can just like make it a
Yeah.
bit more intense. But yeah, a good playlist just
Mm,
like creates a nice vibe. And yeah, I think definitely try and plan that before. Don't just like whip out a random one. Just like, yeah,
yeah.
pick your favorite songs that kind of like, yeah, get you excited and happy, and yeah, definitely like sets the mood.
100%, yeah. And then with your like planning of the morning, a good makeup artist, hairstylist, photographer will guide you on this, but really aiming to have those things finished before you need to walk out the door. Like we want every makeup to be done at least an hour before the bride needs to walk out the door. And that could even be earlier depending on how long the photographer wants for photos. Also, like getting in your dress. If you're taping boobs, if someone's taping boobs, please put in like a 30-minute window in the timetable at least, especially if it's your first time doing it. And then just the little things like if you've got darker hair that you aren't a fan of, getting the fluff dermaplaned off your face can be really helpful because makeup can make that more obvious. I know that not everyone wants to be tanned, but change your thinking of it if that's you and think of it as like body makeup. You can do really light tans. There are really amazing spray tanners out there, and it just helps to even everything out. Sometimes pale girls get nervous and their skin goes that sort of bluey, veiny color. So it's not going to make you necessarily like fully change your undertone, but it's just going to make your body look more even and like you've got a little veil of makeup on your body. So I think that's a big one, the tan to whatever that tan might look like to you.
Yeah, that's such a good one. Always feel so much better with the spray tan, and it doesn't need to be super dark, but it is just like evening and a good base to go from. Yeah, I love the chat around timing as well, and just like putting in heaps of buffer time. And yeah, I've just seen some really hectic wedding mornings, and it's always kind of that last, like, yeah, half an hour before you have to leave, that it's suddenly all go. And if you're still getting your makeup done then, or you're not in your dress,
Mm,
then yeah, it's all just going to go really fast and be a bit stressful. So yeah, I have clients asking about that as well, and they always say talk to your hair and makeup artists about how long they need, and then leave a bit of time. Even if you have to sit around for an hour, like you can have a glass
yeah.
of bubbles, get some photos, just like hang out with your bridal party. So better to have more time than less always. That's a
Mm.
great tip.
Something that I think as hair and makeup we notice too, a lot of crazy weather in the summer, whereas if you stand outside, you're either going to get rained on or sweaty. Is like your bridal party, as soon as they've kind of had hair and makeup, they're not really people that you are going to want to help you with things like setting up the tables or steaming dresses. So just having a friend, an auntie, or like I know you've mentioned that service wedding day bestie there to help with that. Otherwise, like the hairstylist might be having to redo their hair, and once you get fully sweaty, there's not too much you can do other than like rewash it. But bridesmaids unfortunately aren't as able to be maids of the brides as they once were. The glam is a whole operation. So having someone who's not involved in that glam to help out with the steaming of the dresses and things like that is a really, really good idea.
Yeah, I love that. It's, yeah, definitely a good idea to allocate that to someone, or hire a wedding coordinator, helper, whatever that looks like. I think that's coming up more and more. And yeah, if you can just like lift all those little responsibilities off your bridal party and even your family and friends, then
Mm.
that's ideal, because yeah, that can just make a wedding day so much more stressful. Do you want to go through some of those questions from Instagram? I don't know. There's some we haven't touched on yet.
A few of them, we've kind of gone through a lot of them, but what was the most challenging part of wedding planning? How did you not fall into wedding trends? I think a mindset that really helped me was if this was not going to be shown on social media, like what would I do? Which I think can really go for getting your budget down as well. But say, like, not that anyone's not going to have a photographer, but if it wasn't being photographed, if it wasn't being shown to all your friends or people that you've met once at high school, then what would you do? And I think that gives you like a lot more security to just do what you want. I also just tried to have fun with it. Like, I don't know, I really love looking at old wedding photos with like the frou frou 80s dresses, and people say, like, oh, they're hideous, you'd never wear them now. But to me, it really shows that time, and I would much rather have fun and go for something that out there that I love at the time and maybe I might hate in the future than have something that is like nice now and I'll still like in the future. I don't know. I think that is maybe a little bit differently than how everyone thinks, but just something I enjoyed now. And if I hate it in the future, like, what was a phrase I heard? Like, if you're indifferent, then you're never going to fully be in love with it. Like, indifferent styling you will love in decades to come, but maybe you don't have that passion for it. So that helped. And just, yeah, doing what I liked, feeling like I had no one to answer to in terms of like random people if they like your wedding or not. And if there's anything that people don't like or that you make a wrong quote unquote decision on, like, no one's going to say anything to the happy bride. No one's going to tell you they hated the bridesmaids' dresses, hopefully. So they might lie to you and say they like it, but that's fine. I think it doesn't matter if you choose something bad.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think people get caught up on creating a really like timeless wedding, but I don't know if anything is actually timeless. Like it's going to be, I don't know, we're just in the era we're in, and in 20, 30 years, they're going to look back and be like, oh, that's so 20s. I guess we're in the 20s now, but
That's so true.
yeah, it's just like, I don't know, I think go like bold or do what you really want and don't be caught up in like making it safe and making it last, because yeah, it's cool. It's like a iconic, those like old 80s
Yeah.
photos, and I think that's fine. It's like the time we're in, and celebrate that.
Yeah, I love an 80s wedding photo.
So good. I love what you said about the planning, like it's not going to go on social media, because that is such a massive thing and it is so hard to avoid that, or like it's such a fun thing doing content and being able to share that with everyone as well. But yeah, try not to feel the pressure, and some weddings can just become such a performance, and yeah, like I don't know, trying to focus on what it's actually about and what like represents you as a couple, not what's going to be the most Instagrammable, whatever.
Yeah. And then it's just more authentic, hey?
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
Another question was, did I feel any pressure when choosing my look due to my work, or was it just pure fun? I didn't so much feel pressure. I think I could have easily at the start, I had maybe 2 weeks where I was thinking like, oh, what do people want me to do? But then I was able to pull myself out of that quite quickly. But I will say, if any vendors getting married, there are like so many dresses that are off the market to you because you've had a bride do them. Like that was huge. Heaps of dresses I was seeing on try on, and I was like, no, so and so's got that in January, so and so's got that. Like, love that one, but I know who's wearing that or who's already worn that. Maybe that was why choosing the dress was so hard as well.
Yeah, that's such a thing. And even yeah, I know other vendors are like, oh, I don't want to get married anywhere that I've shot at before or worked at before, or so it like feels like work when you're turning up on the day, which yeah, can really narrow things down.
Yeah, I think the private venue helped with that because that probably was something like the coolest accommodation around here is the Rocks in Karapiro, but I go there like every Saturday, so
Yeah.
that was out of the question.
You did do your own wedding makeup. I don't know if we mentioned that as well, but
Mm.
yeah, natural, because you know exactly what you want. But was that like, did you find that okay? Was that stressful on the day, or?
It would have been stressful if I hadn't done it. Like when I was talking about those different types of brides when it comes to makeup for, I'm like the fussiest of the fussy with like a bit of neuroses about makeup tied into it. So if I'd had someone else do it, I just know I would have been too shy to ask for all the changes. But I'm really glad I did it myself. I wouldn't recommend it because you have to you have to remember to pack every single makeup product and every single brush. I forgot my brow pencil, which is how I ended up forgetting to do my brows. There are actually a couple of makeup things that I might have done differently now, but I don't want to say what they are because I don't want people to look at them. I also didn't get like a good makeup photo in front of a makeup light, which I was gutted about. Thankfully, I had my friend Kendall get some videos in natural light, but again, if I'd had a makeup artist, I would have got that photo, though if you're not a makeup artist, you probably don't care about that photo. I'm really glad I did it and really enjoyed what I did. It was kind of that like perfected glammy skin, but really simple on the eyes. I have more of like a deep set eye, so I don't need much going on there anyway. But also I think that's just like the way it's going a bit more with the eyes is not anything dark. And I really enjoyed like trialing lip combos every day and spending way too much money on new lip glosses and the excuse that they were for the wedding. Yeah, I had fun doing it.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I definitely recommend everyone go and follow Gabby on Instagram and TikTok. She's amazing content queen. Vlogs, makeup advice, lifestyle, just documenting everything. So you're definitely one of my faves to follow.
All of
And
it.
I learn so much, even just for like everyday makeup, being a bit of an amateur. But yeah, you're such a good educator and amazing businesswoman at what you do. So definitely go and check her out. We'll tag all of that in the show notes and all your vendors for your day as well. Is there anything else you want to add as we wrap up?
No, I think that kind of covers it. Thank you so much. Those were such lovely words. Yeah, it was fun. I would recommend having a wedding. Yeah. No regrets.